In today's brief video, we're going to take some time and talk about some of the basics when it comes to quitting smoking weed or quitting alcohol, quitting nicotine, quitting adult media content, quitting gambling. The content in today's video is really going to be able to be applied to any type of substance use disorder. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name's Dr. Frank. I'm the founder of AddictionMindset recovery coaching programs, which are dedicated to helping people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content, substances I once personally struggled with. To learn more about our free PDF resources or our paid coaching programs, for those of you guys who don't want to go to rehab, those of you guys who don't need a medical detox, who want complete privacy, maybe 12-step programs didn't work out for you, be sure to check out the pinned comment or the video description at the end of today's video. I'm probably going to make this a series of 3 or 4 videos, but there's some basic advice that you're given when you quit a substance, and that advice is deeply rooted in self-care. And that basic advice usually consists of start to exercise, eat healthier, focus on a good night's sleep, and try and stay away from people or environments that are going to suck you back into substance use, okay? And then other basic stuff too. Clean out your car, clean up your room, clean up your apartment, your living space, all that. Kind of declutter. That's basic advice that everyone gets. And today what I want to focus on is the hobbies aspect of that advice. Because so many times you'll hear people say, well, you know, look, when you quit smoking weed or you quit drinking alcohol, you're going to have more time on your hands. You're probably going to have more money on your hands. So what are you going to do with that time? And in therapy or other places, rehabs will say, well, start a hobby, pick up a hobby. Well, for me, that was much easier said than done, because my hobby was chewing tobacco, vaping, smoking weed at night, binge drinking on the weekends, and watching adult media content. Outside of that, my hobby was working 3 or 4 different jobs at any given moment, okay? And when it came to hobbies, I didn't have any. I didn't play sports. I didn't have any interest. And I've noticed a lot of people that I talk to fall into a similar category. So when it comes to finding a hobby that you can do that's actually going to benefit you when it comes to quitting weed or quitting drinking or whatever, I want you to think in terms of a hobby that's easy to do, a hobby that's going to somewhat challenge you mentally, that involves some degree of investigation, some degree of education and learning, right? And then a hobby that's accessible, that's 24/7 access. And I'll explain what I mean by this. And ideally, that hobby should also give you a little bit of hit of a dopamine rush. And at the same time, that hobby should be connected to one of the goals that you've set forth for yourself when it comes to quitting substances. So if one of your goals was to make more money, then maybe that hobby should be rooted in a side hustle. If one of your goals was to be getting in better shape and reclaiming your physical health after quitting, then maybe that hobby should be rooted in physical exercise or physical activity. So start to think in terms like that. Now, I'll give you guys my hobby when I quit smoking weed. Started off as YouTube and TikTok content. I knew I wanted to be a content creator, and initially I wanted to do it for my chiropractic practices, and I actually had a bit of a podcast going regarding CBD products, which I am a fan of good quality CBD, but we'll save that for another video discussion. I don't personally use CBD because the whole CHS, Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome thing, but I am a fan of CBD. Anyways, so I knew I wanted to get into social media content as a hobby. And this was a great hobby because when I'd come home at night after working a 10, 12-hour day in my offices, I would need something that was fast acting, something that was always accessible, irrelevant of how the weather was, and something that I was interested in enough to do even when I was exhausted. Because that's essentially what weed was. That's what adult media content was. And people will come up with these really intricate or really complex hobbies when they quit a substance. And this isn't a good idea, because one of the I guess I'll say, benefits of weed or alcohol or any drug is it's quick access. You work a 12-hour day at work, it's nothing to come home and hit your dab pen or spark up a joint or have a drink of alcohol. And then you get that feeling of relaxation. You get that feeling of escape. You get that type moment, that release, okay? It's quick and it's easy. So when someone says my hobby is going to be exercise and going to the gym, that's awesome. I recommend exercise to anyone who's quitting substances. But are you going to be going to the gym at 10 p.m. after a 12-hour shift, after you've been on a 3-day shift for your nursing career, for your, you're a physician, and you've been working in the ER, and now you get off, and now what? What are you going to do? You're exhausted. That's why that drink, why that joint was so appealing, okay? So for me, video content creation was all those things. It was something I could do 24/7 around the clock, irrelevant of weather, irrelevant of where I am in the world, right? Which right now I'm in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. But it was irrelevant. Like, I could do it all the time. Now, social media content also does give you, you put out videos, you're educating yourself on the production of videos and how to better your skill in this hobby, right? And then eventually for me, it turned into a business, our addiction mindset recovery coaching group company and stuff that we have now. So that hobby then added to my income. It helped me with my ability to speak. I learned new skills when it came to social media and when it came to marketing. I learned how to write email copy. Sign up for our email list if you haven't already by downloading those free PDFs. And I think you guys have to start to consider what hobby for you could parallel what I'm doing in social media, if not social media for yourself maybe, if this sounds appealing to you. But you have to think in terms of easy access. I can do it anywhere. It's going to give me a little bit of a dopamine hit. So exercise does that. Social media content production does that. Anything that really involves learning and coming up with a final product is going to give you that dopamine hit and that sense of satisfaction, right? So this could be writing music. This could be art. This could be writing in general, like books or something like that. It could be a number of different things. Learning a new skill, learning how to write copy, learning how to edit videos, which could become a side hustle. A lot of things out there that's possible. But I emphasize this because so many people will come to me and they'll say, oh, I'm getting invested in these hobbies, but then they don't have 24/7 access to the hobby like they had 24/7 access to the weed, the nicotine, the alcohol, whatever, pornography, whatever the substance was. So when you're quitting and you start thinking of what hobbies you want to get into, think in terms of that. And then to further up that, think in terms of, what am I trying to accomplish by quitting drugs? Like, why am I doing this? The point of getting sober isn't just to get sober. That really has very little inherent value besides saving you on your health, unless you wind up doing something that's more, maybe you pick up a hobby that's more destructive. I don't know. So you have to give sobriety value, and that value can come from some of the hobbies that you invest your time into. So what were your goals in quitting? And what hobbies are in line with those goals and moving the needle closer towards accomplishing those goals, okay? That's what you want to think of. And it's okay to have more than one hobby, right? So one of my main hobbies is content creation, which became a profession, and then the addiction recovery coaching. My secondary hobby, I'd say, is fitness. That's definitely something that I'm into, and that can go along with cooking and nutrition. That can be a hobby in and of itself. My third hobby is firearms. Now, firearms for me were nice target shooting because I could get out and I could go like set up targets. So I'm getting outdoors, I'm getting out of the sun, I get camaraderie among other family members and friends who are into it. And that's cool. But then there's also the cleaning of the firearms, the maintaining of the firearms, the education of the firearms. So that's something I can do on a rainy day at my workbench in my basement. I got a lot of guys who like to tinker with things and take things apart and put them back together will understand what I'm talking about if they're watching this. But it's a 24/7 thing. Like I can do that on a rainy day. My other hobby, fitness, is a little more limited, and sometimes I don't have the physical energy for it or the capacity after a long day. But I did eventually get fitness equipment for my home, so I can do that. So like, I have, I guess, maybe 3 main hobbies that go along with my day-to-day stuff. And to emphasize, each of those hobbies, there's always something to do about them. I can always be learning about new fitness routines. I can always be learning about a new firearm and how to clean it. I can always be developing in my business skills as an addiction recovery coach, as a social media influencer, right? What mics to use, how do you write better copy, how do you write a better title for a video, a better title for an email. It's endless. It's really these hobbies also that prevent you from that boredom that everyone is so afraid of in early addiction recovery. But I want to say it was out of the boredom, allowing myself to be bored, that I then found the time to go dive into these hobbies. Because in order to pick up a hobby, you need time, okay? And if all your time is going into alcohol or weed or drugs, you're never going to find the time to discover the new thing that you enjoy, or the new passion, or the new side hustle that maybe turns into a career for you. And lastly, I tried a bunch of different things before I found the things that really clicked for me, the things that I really stuck with. I tried a million different things, okay? So don't feel worried if you're starting this process and you're like, oh, I'm not sure about this, or you're not there yet. Because eventually it will come. Eventually you'll figure it out if you stick with it and you stay away from the substances. So hopefully this advice is much better than the generic advice that you get. Oh, you got to find new hobbies, because it's not as easy as it sounds. I'll make a part on this when it comes to self-care. We'll make a part when it comes to the importance of sleep. We'll make one on fitness and nutrition too. We'll kind of make this a little series. I'll link the videos in the video description as I roll out this series. Maybe that's what I'll do while I'm on vacation here. And we'll go from there. Now, if you guys need extra help with this, or you want to talk about it, we have one-on-one addiction recovery coaching programs. We have one-off sessions, and then we have ongoing programs. We also have, which I dropped, if you're struggling with withdrawal symptoms, cravings, you need a little extra boost to get started, check out our Kick It Crave Less chewing gum product. We manufacture this product. We make this. It has ashwagandha and KSM66 ashwagandha and N-acetylcysteine, and it's a chewing gum to help you get through those first few days of quitting. I use this myself. I'm using it. I get a little nervous when I go on cruises, and this kind of takes the edge off just a little bit. Now that we don't got weed and nicotine and alcohol on the cruise, you know, I'm still for something that gives a little bit of anxiety relief. But it doesn't have the repercussions of drinking all night on a cruise, eating like crap, not exercising, and then missing out on all your tours, which is something I've done many times in the past. So I can also say, I think this is my first fully sober cruise, and it's an international one, which is pretty cool to say that. And I'm here, I get to celebrate it with my wife and my baby and stuff like that. So pretty cool, guys. All right, stay tuned, more videos to come.